Hi everybody, today's focus is a follow-up video. I'm going to be testing how well food-grade hydrogen peroxide removes bacteria from lettuce mix. A little bit ago I released a video that was a viewer request asking me to test various ways to remove bacteria from lettuce. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. In that video, I tested various methods of removing bacteria from lettuce using water, vinegar, suds, and baking soda. That video created quite a stir. I had many more comments on this video than I've had on any other video before. And there were several suggestions for different things that I should test. Now I do want to preface this and say, I am not saying at all that we have to remove all the bacteria from our lives in order to live healthy lives. And I'm not saying that any bacteria that we find on lettuce is harmful and going to harm you in any way. There's definitely harmful bacteria in the world, and there's also beneficial bacteria in the world. I'm testing to see if we can remove bacteria from lettuce because my viewers have asked me to test that. So in the comments, a lot of viewers said, well, I use hydrogen peroxide, or how about you try hydrogen peroxide? So I looked it up and I was trying to figure out, well, how should we use hydrogen peroxide in cleaning lettuce? It's not a method that I've ever used, so it's not something that I was familiar with. So I chose 4 viewer suggestions to test. So in order to test how well hydrogen peroxide removes bacteria from a lettuce mix, what I'm going to do is take a petri dish just like this guy here and label it A, B, and C. I'm going to take some sterile swabs and I'm going to swab the lettuce. Then I'm going to rinse the lettuce using hydrogen peroxide in a couple of different methods, and when we're done washing the lettuce, I'll swab it again and place that sample in the section labeled A for after. C is my control, nothing's going to go here. So you'll be able to see in the petri dish the amount of bacteria on the lettuce before and after rinsing with hydrogen peroxide. One of the first things I did was grab my bottle of hydrogen peroxide that I have in my home, and I said I wonder if there's any directions on here for using it as a vegetable wash. I've never really looked before. So I grabbed this bottle. This is just 3% hydrogen peroxide from Walgreens. And it says it's for treatment of minor cuts and abrasions. You can use it as a gargle or a rinse. Okay, so I kept going on and kept reading. The directions for use explain how to use it for wound care and also as a mouthwash. But they have some very specific warnings here, and it says do not swallow. Okay, so nowhere here did it say this is food grade. So I chose not to use this hydrogen peroxide. I went on Amazon and I searched for food grade hydrogen peroxide, and I found this Simple Nature 3% hydrogen peroxide, and it says it is food grade. However, it also has that same warning label, do not swallow. So that says to me we most certainly should not be consuming hydrogen peroxide. After every single test I do, we are going to be washing the lettuce to make sure it all rinses away. I know people are going to say to me, hydrogen peroxide just breaks down into oxygen and water. There's no reason to worry, but I do not want to put anyone down the wrong path and suggest in any way that it is safe to ingest hydrogen peroxide, because it is not. I did a quick Google search to see what are the ways in which we're supposed to use hydrogen peroxide when we are using it as a lettuce wash, and you know, I didn't find much out there. I didn't find anything on the FDA side, I didn't find anything on the USDA side. All I found on their side was to just use water. So I was like, all right. But I did find a YouTube video by a Dr. Eric Berg who suggests you use a food-grade hydrogen peroxide at 3%. We should dilute that 1/4 cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide to 1 gallon of water and soak for 20 minutes, then rinse. So I am going to test that today. In addition to testing what Dr. Berg suggested, I'm also going to test what 4 viewers suggested. One suggestion comes from JMIS 1907. And they say, I use a couple drops of hydrogen peroxide to 3 cups of water. So I'll be testing that. Rose Zingelman 5007 said, my mom taught me to use regular hydrogen peroxide, about 1 part to 3 parts water. So I will also be testing that. Carlene Benson said, I've been told a 10-minute soak in a quarter cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water, followed by a rinse and dry was good. Okay, so we're going to try that. And last, I reached out to this viewer in the comment section, but they didn't reply to me, was Lynn Ha, SD4ZF, where they had said I would put a capsule of peroxide in a big bowl of water and let them, whatever produce, soak for 10 minutes. No need a second wash. Rinse, dry, then eat. Okay. And then this person goes on to say, peroxide, it's edible, 10-minute soak, need no second wash, rinse, dry, then eat. All produces, it's safe to eat. My humble opinion, I am healthy for today at 67. Not even a lean, I believe they meant to say Aleve, needed. Thanks God. Daily light weights, tennis, and a walk in the evening after dinner. So I reached out and said, do you mean a capful of hydrogen peroxide, or are there capsules that I don't know about? Never got a reply, but I'm kind of curious about that. So 1 capsule. So I'm going to do 1 capful in a bowl of water for 10 minutes. I'm also going to test the 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide full strength, and I will also do just a control with just water. So that's 7 separate tests. Washing the lettuce with water, full strength 3% hydrogen peroxide, doing Dr. Berg's 1/4 cup of hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water, soak for 20 minutes. J. Miss's suggestion of a couple drops of hydrogen peroxide in 3 cups of water. Rose Zingelman's suggestion of 1 part hydrogen peroxide, 3 parts water. That one, I had to decide how long I'm going to soak for those 2. They didn't say. And Carlene Benson's suggestion of a 10-minute soak with a 1/4 cup in 1 gallon of water. So it's very similar to Dr. Berg's, it's just the time is cut. Lynn HSD's suggestion of, I believe it's a capful, in a big bowl of water, soak for 10 minutes. So maybe for the ones that did not give me a time, I'll do 10 minutes. Because the other suggestions are 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. I'll just do 10 minutes just to keep things even. Okay. I'll also do an additional control of testing just my plain water and paper towels to just ensure that they're not introducing any bacteria. But I do want to remind people, when I test things on my channel, it's real world, like what's happening in the atmosphere in a real home environment setting. I am not trying to reproduce laboratory settings. I'm not using sterile towels. I'm not going to use sterile water. I'm using what we have in our home to show you what the results are from just a real world home. As for the lettuce, I'm going to use the same brand and type that I purchased for the last test, and that was just Organic Market Side Spring Mix. In between each of these tests, I will also be cleaning the tongs that I use in my bowl that I use and the colander that I use to rinse with Palmolive dish soap, and I will link the video to how well that removes bacteria in the description below, as well as spraying them with Force of Nature. I'll place the video link to that also in the description below so you can see how well that removes bacteria from items. That's the only part of this experiment that isn't really realistic. You're not going to be doing those sorts of things in between washing your lettuce mixes, but I'm going to do that to make sure that there's no cross-contamination. I'm not going to touch the lettuce with my hands. As always, I will be washing my hands, but I will just touch the lettuce with the metal tongs. So let's see how well the food grade 3% hydrogen peroxide removes bacteria from lettuce after being soaked with it in some capacity and then rinsed. Now for some results. This test is just to see, can hydrogen peroxide remove bacteria? And I am not suggesting that we have to remove every bit of bacteria on our lettuce. This is just a test to see, can hydrogen peroxide do anything? Let's start by looking at the petri dish that had a sample of my water and a sample of the paper towel. So you can see here, there's no bacterial growth on the petri dish at all. So there's no bacteria on the paper towels that I'm using to dry the lettuce, and there's also no bacteria in my water. Washing the lettuce with just water. In the before section, we can see a lot of bacteria, and in the after section, it looks just about the same. We're not seeing any significant decrease in bacteria at all when washing lettuce with just water. Let's look at the viewer suggestion from JMIS 1907, which was a couple of drops of hydrogen peroxide to 3 cups of water, and I let it sit for 10 minutes. In the before section, we can see a lot of bacteria, and in the after section, it looks like maybe there's a slight decrease in bacteria, but we still have a lot of bacteria after. Let's look at the results from my viewer request from Lynn HSD4ZF, which was, we believe, a capful of hydrogen peroxide to a big bowl of water, soak for 10 minutes. In the before section, we can see a lot of bacteria, and in the after section, we're not seeing much of a difference at all. So this method doesn't seem to remove much bacteria. Let's look at the viewer suggestion from Carlene Benson 5130, which was a 10-minute soak with 1/4 cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide in 1 gallon of water. In the before section, we can see a lot of bacteria, and I do want to note that when I was swabbing, I did cross my own boundary line. I did make a note of it in my paper, and I did expect to see a little growth there because it is what it is. And in the after section, I'm not seeing much of a difference. There still seems to be a lot of bacteria after washing with this method. Let's look at Dr. Berg's suggestion from the video that he created that said food grade hydrogen peroxide, dilute 1/4 cup in a gallon of water, soak for 20 minutes. So in the before section, we can see a lot of bacteria. In the after section, we can see a slight decrease in bacteria. Not a huge difference, but there is a slight decrease in bacteria. This method, there still seems to be bacteria hanging around. Let's look at viewer suggestion from Rose Zingelman 5007, which was 1 part of hydrogen peroxide to 3 parts water, and I let it soak for 10 minutes. In the before section, we can see a lot of bacteria, and in the after section, we can see a slight decrease in bacteria. This one so far shows the most decrease, but there's still a lot of bacteria there. Let's look at full strength hydrogen peroxide. So in the before section, we can see a lot of bacteria. In the after section, we're also seeing a lot of bacteria. There is a slight decrease, and you actually can see there's less of the white bacteria, more of the yellow. I could see the yellow in the other samples as well, but not as prominent as this one. So there seems to be some decrease in bacteria, not a lot, nothing significant. So overall, what I'm seeing is food grade 3% hydrogen peroxide really isn't doing much to decrease the bacteria on lettuce. I tested various methods, some from my viewers, some from other sources, and we're just not seeing a big decrease in bacteria. Now, I do want to reiterate over and over and over again that I am in no way saying we have to remove all the bacteria in the world in order to eat our lettuce. I'm just testing this because it's a fun experiment to do, and there seems to be a lot of viewers that have different ways in which they're washing their lettuce. Some of them stated that they're really looking to get rid of pesticides. Some stated they're just looking to get rid of dirt and bugs. Others stated, well, yeah, I think this removes bacteria. So I just tested to see if I can remove the bacteria. I do not have the means to test for pesticides. I know that was something that a lot of people had said, why didn't you test for pesticides? In my home, I just can't do that. For me in my home, I am not going to use hydrogen peroxide to clean my lettuce because I just don't see the need to do so. I will just be using water or the drop of Suds in a bowl from what I tested previously. More so though for me to get rid of dirt, insects, than to get rid of bacteria. Because I know I've eaten this lettuce plenty and I'm absolutely fine. I do want to state that I am in no way saying we need to try to remove all the bacteria in our world in order to eat our lettuce. There is harmful bacteria in the world, and there's also beneficial bacteria in the world. But we have seen in the news different fruits and vegetables getting recalled due to harmful bacteria. I will continue to test various ways to remove bacteria from lettuce because that's what my viewers have asked me to do. I've gotten several suggestions in that first video to test, I think it was salts and also ozone. So that's going to be in the works in the next few months. As always, if there's a product that you would like me to test, do me a favor and put it in the comments section and I will add it to my viewer suggestion list. I love seeing what my viewers want me to test next. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care, have yourselves a great day.